Hello and welcome back to the Lewiston Tribune Podcast. I'm Sam Taylor, sports reporter of the Lewiston Tribune, and I'm joined by Trevor. Hello, Trevor.
Hey Sam, how you doing today?
Pretty good, especially good because we get to talk about football. Idaho and Washington State took to their various practice fields for fall camp. We've been following them for the last week and a half and really excited to get to that. So welcome to episode 47 of the Lewiston Tribune Podcast. This is a crossover with the Final Whistle, our Lewiston Tribune sports podcast. We're bringing you both things in one this week, so thanks for joining us. And if you're interested in sports and want to hear our takes on sports and just the local observations and news and highlights from throughout the local area, we've got you covered. We're going to resume regular episodes of the Final Whistle shortly, but this is kind of our kickoff, just to recap what we've seen so far in fall camp. And so, so we're going to start, I guess, with the quarterback lack of a battle at Idaho. Joshua Wood, Thomas Ford was very transparent. First-year head coach of the Vandals, he came out at Big Sky Media Day, said that Joshua Wood, he'd be surprised if Joshua Wood wasn't his quarterback, right? What did you kind of make of Ford's transparency in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, at media day, he was pretty obvious, saying, like, again, he would be surprised if he wasn't his quarterback. And then going into the fall camp, I mean, it looks completely different. The offense does look just completely different. It looks like a different ball game. They look transformed to Joshua Wood. They look dangerous on offense. Where in the spring, they looked kind of stale. They looked kind of stuck. And the quarterbacks were kind of the issue there. Where Joshua Wood looks miles ahead of the other guys, Nick Junt, Jack Wagner, Holden B, and others. Joshua Wood, he said today, like, basically, he didn't name him as starter, but he said he's emerged as their starter, which is kind of naming him as your starter. But, he said the battle today, which was a scrimmage on Wednesday, it was mostly second and third string figuring out who's going to be the backup quarterback and the backup quarterback. And Joshua Wood, again, just looks miles ahead of the other guys.
Yeah, when you say miles ahead, what's really separating Joshua in this competition?
The offense actually moves the ball. Like, with him not on the field, they punted multiple times. They can move the ball a little bit and then get field goals or miss field goals. But with Joshua Wood, they can move the ball. They can score. They scored multiple times. He threw one pick in the scrimmage. It was kind of batted off of Tony Harsky's hands and then into the hands of the other guy. But, I mean, they can actually just perform basic offensive stuff with Joshua Wood, which they really couldn't with the other guys. So that's what makes the difference right there. Let's talk about WSU. They have a 4-quarterback battle going on right now.
That's right.
So how's that going, and who do you think's leading that?
It's between returning senior Zevi Eckhouse, who was the Cougars' backup quarterback last year. He started the Holiday Bowl, passed for over 300 yards. He entered the portal once Rogers was hired, but once Rogers' former quarterback at South Dakota State chose Iowa instead of Wazoo, he came back to Washington State knowing that he'd have a decent shot at the job. Quarterback Jackson Potter, a third-year Coug, he has thrown all of 2 passes in the game, but he provides some really solid potential with a great arm. There's 2 transfers, redshirt freshman Julian Duggar from Pitt. He started the Panthers bowl game last year, a 6-overtime loss to Toledo, where he passed for 72 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception, and then ran for a touchdown and 88 yards. So he presents that real dual threat. And then Johnny Shepard, a transfer from Rutgers, who has not thrown a pass, but has appeared as kind of a gadget quarterback and ran just a couple times for Rutgers in games. Duggar, the one start, Johnny Shepard, kind of that one run, are kind of the extent of their college careers. We haven't seen a lot from them, but at Washington State, they provide the kind of dual thread archetype that Rogers and his OC, Danny Freund, really, really want and really think that this offense needs. Kind of all 4 have a potential to be mobile, and Rogers today said that he believes Zevi is mobile and has been really impressed with just obviously his accuracy, his leadership, but also just his ability to pick up the playbook and know the playbook at this point in the year and be able to get outside the pocket and run as needed. And with that, and somewhat, unusually, they have kind of taken the gloves off for the defense. The quarterbacks have gone live not once but twice, on Monday and on Wednesday. And in those settings, they took real hits and real sacks from the defensive linemen and escaped the pocket and got tackled and made plays. And, it was very interesting.
This early in the fall, I think we're on day 7 right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to introduce to quarterbacks right now. Obviously, that's a valuable position. You don't want your quarterbacks to get hit. Idaho had their scrimmage today. Did not let their quarterbacks get touched.
Yeah.
But WC wants to see the physicality these quarterbacks have.
They want to see the physicality. They want to see their mobility. They want to see their ability to improvise when the pocket breaks down around them. And the only way they're really going to see that is if there's the actual life or death situation of, hey, I'm going to get hit. And they want that for the offensive lineman to know, hey, my guy's going to get hit if I don't do my job. And they want that for the quarterback to know, hey, if I don't get rid of this ball, I'm going to get hit. And that's going to hurt my team, just like in a real game. Johnny Shepard, Rutgers transfer, seemed to take a really hard hit, and it took him a while to get up. There's risk with this. You can have guys that should rise to the occasion and make guys miss and make plays, and then you also run the risk of injury. It is really an interesting line they're walking. I'll be curious to see if the events of Wednesday's practice kind of alter their approach and they don't go live as much going forward. This was the second time in 3 days that they went live, but you're seeing quarterbacks, seeing positives and negatives. You're seeing Zevi make some pretty great throws. You saw Julian make some pretty great throws. And you also saw some, underthrows and mistakes and sacks and things like that. But those are things that they perhaps wouldn't have seen to the extent that they've seen them if they had not gone live. And so that's at least valuable information for the coaching staff to have.
If you were to make a prediction today, who would be starting week 1 against Idaho? Who would you say would be starting?
I would say Zevi Eckhouse. Zevi has the experience. All these other guys, Julian started one game. The other guys have, run a couple times or passed a couple times. Zevi provides, the most continuity, the most experience, and just, I think he knows he's the most familiar with the playbook, having spent, the last 6-8 months, with it in mind that he's going to be the starter. And it is worth noting that Zevi's the only quarterback who has spoken in the media so far. Last year, it was a 2-man race between John Mateer and Zevi Eckhouse. We spoke to John day 1 and Zevi day 2. Zevi has by far been the most impressive with the type of throws he's made and just the leadership and poise and presence he brings to the position.
I think we should go back and forth here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about improvements.
Totally.
What have you seen in practice that you think needs to be improved going forward?
I think the offensive line is always going to be a point of focus. They're relying on Brock Dew and Christian Hilborn, 2 great offensive linemen who have been there for years, since 2021 at Washington State. And the rest has kind of been filling in the gaps. They have a New Mexico State transfer right guard, AJ Vallapulu, who will likely start at right guard. Offensive line had a lot of retention. So you have guys like Ashton Tripp competing at left tackle, Johnny Lester at left guard, and then Noah Dunham at right guard as well, and so or left guard. And so you have this competition brewing, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But this moment plays my mind over and over when Washington State couldn't get a yard against Boise State. And granted, that was a college football playoff caliber defensive line. I certainly don't see Rogers kind of tolerating that, and so the offensive line is kind of where this offense lives or dies. And so we'll see if they can show the most improvement over the rest of camp.
I mean, for Idaho, I think it's kind of the same thing where in years past, like even Nate has a party, the guard, left guard. He said today where like the offensive line has been a weak point in the past, and people have blamed the offensive line for Idaho not advancing further in the playoff, and they want to change that narrative. So the starting 5 right now is Charlie Vleem, Nate has a party, Leighton Vining, Leon Evans, and Keegan Henson. They also have a few guys, Tyler Skinner and Howard Stedford, who are working in there too. But it's a work in progress. The offensive line is an issue for the Vandals too. I don't know how bad it's really been in fall. It hasn't really been bad. It's been decent. They've been creating good running holes. Also, just decent pockets. There's been a few sacks. Like I guess yesterday there was 5 sacks, but today there was only 1 sack that I know of. Donovan Parham got Jack Wagner, and also the run defense will take time too. Today they got lit up. Art Williams went for 20 yards plus multiple times. Elisha Cummings did the same thing. He did really well today too. So the running defense really needs help. The secondary looks very solid. Even the back 7 are pretty solid with the linebackers, safeties, and corners. I think that the run game on defense needs some work, and the offensive line obviously will always need improvement.
Last year was probably the most successful Vandals football season since 1993 in terms of wins and how far they got in the playoffs. But how much further could they have gone with an improved defensive line, and can they go this year?
Joshua Wood is mobile. He's a dual threat.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can evade sacks, evade tacklers, and make plays. So I think that's important too, to note that. Another thing with a mobile quarterback, though, is they can cause their own sacks sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard to tell right now how much it's really improved compared to last year. They look solid. They don't look amazing. They don't look bad. Except for yesterday, they looked bad. But they look solid throughout camp. I would say that's definitely something that both you and I are covering right now. We're young staffs, building new teams and new cultures, and it's just going to take time. And we're only in the second week of fall camp. So, yeah, it's just going to take time to build that culture and those teams up.
What's a position group that's like an early strength for Idaho?
It's easy to say running back. They got Elisha Cummings, Nate Thomas, Art Williams. Those guys are going to be pretty deadly. But honestly, I think my favorite, I like those big hits. And those safeties can hit. Oh my gosh. Safeties and linebackers both, actually. There was one hit today that the guy laid on Art Williams today that just resounded through the whole stadium. It was just like,
Wow.
It was a great hit. And I'm excited to see those safeties and linebackers go downhill and just bring pressure and hit guys. What about you? What's one position group or two that really stands out?
Yeah, I'd say the whole secondary is really sticking out. That was kind of a strength of Rogers' staff, of Rogers' team at South Dakota State. In fact, they brought quite a few former Jackrabbits: Matt Durrance, Cale Reeder, Kyle Peterson. But one of the guys that's really impressed, two corners. You had Jamari Colson, who's been a Coug for several years now. He made 3 interceptions in practice on Wednesday.
Wow.
Another guy, a true freshman out of the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. He probably has the coolest name you'll hear in college football, Trillion Sorrell. Not million, not billion, trillion. He's making $1 trillion plays. And he's somebody who Rogers said could legitimately, if he continues to earn it, play on Saturdays.
One thing I forgot to mention is that defensive line actually is probably the best thing that they have right now. With the transfers, Maurice Himes, Donovan Parham, they got 6-year Vanders, Zach Grosser, and then they also have Matthias McLean. That defensive line is going to be dangerous.
We'll save our, matchup preview and score predictions for a future episode, probably of the Final Whistle. So if you want to hear more about the Cougs, more about the Vandals, be sure to check out the Final Whistle, and then continue to tune into the Lewiston Tribune podcast on all your platforms and on YouTube and atlantatribune.com. Trevor, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sam. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next one.